We are so fortunate that we have such an ideal example in the life of Srila Prabhupada. And I want to look at one example that Prabhupada said that is extremely important for us. And it's how Prabhupada understood perfectly the heart of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and how what he understood from him stayed with him at the forefront of his consciousness and never left him, and was always his guiding point in executing the order of spreading Krishna consciousness. As you know, Srila Prabhupada got the order to spread Krishna consciousness in English when he was very young. And it wasn't till he was older, at the age of 69, he was able to come to America and finally make that attempt to execute the order, although he was executing the order by writing in English. But it wasn't until he came to America that it was fully executed. So that's many, many, many years later from the time he first heard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta speak and give him the order. So number one point to notice, he got that order, and that order went in deeply, and it always stayed there. A lot of times we get an order, but if we don't get the order a year later, we forget it and we think it's not important. We have to continually get that order because the orders tend to fade. Prabhupada got the order, it didn't fade. Later on, Prabhupada told the story that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told him, if you ever get money, print books. So he got the order to write, and he got the order to print. And he always noticed that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was always printing books. He was establishing his own presses in many places in India. It was a prominent, predominant activity of a Gaudiya Math. That registered in Prabhupada. Preach in the West, write books. So now we see, when Prabhupada came to the West, writing books was his most important activity. Publishing books and writing books, that dominated Prabhupada's consciousness. No matter what else was going on, that was always there. That was always given priority. There were so many things were given priority, but that was never given back burner status. It was always in the foreground. This was deeply ingrained in Prabhupada's heart. He understood that deeply, that deep desire of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, sometimes there's questions to the value of distributing books, or you can even say the validity. Should we be doing this? Is there something else we should be doing? Or, okay, we should be doing it, but people don't seem to be reading the books, or maybe they're reading and they don't understand them. Maybe we need to follow up more, or maybe we need to have other programs to get them interested, and then they'll buy the book. That all may be true. But I think one thing to note is that Prabhupada once, when he was asked about book distribution, although many times he said that by book distribution, this is how Krishna consciousness will spread. Wherever it's going on, we're successful. But there was another time when he was questioned more about the validity of it. Is it really going to work? Because sometimes we don't see an immediate response. We just see millions of books have gone out, and there's 30 people at the Sunday feast, although in that city, maybe we've distributed 2 million books, 5 million books, or more even. And so the question, is it valuable? And so when Prabhupada was addressed this, he gave an interesting answer, which could be seen as maybe impractical, but it has deep spiritual merit for us. He said, I don't know the result, but I know my spiritual master asked me to do it. And on faith, with faith in his words, I do it. I think this really exemplifies Prabhupada's position. That not that Prabhupada was blind or Prabhupada wouldn't think we need to help people understand the books. Not that we don't need to explain the books. We don't need to do things to follow up with people who get the books, and not like that. But his point was, because this was the order of my spiritual master, I don't fully have to understand, or I may not fully understand, but I know it's the right thing, and I know this will spread Krishna consciousness because this is what he asked me to do. So I just wanted to show how we see Prabhupada, he gets an order, and that order goes so deep in his heart that he remains in the forefront of his entire life, and he never forgets it. And even though so many things are going on in ISKCON, he was always translating every night. Where are the books? Publish the books. Meticulous about what paintings would go in the books, what paintings would go on the cover. So we can use this as an example when we're given an instruction by Srila Prabhupada or by our spiritual master that we want to take note of that instruction. We want it to go deep within our heart. We can't just go, oh, just an instruction, whatever. No, that was not the example Prabhupada said. And he took many other instructions very, very deeply, not just that. I just focused on that, but he took many, many instructions very, very deeply. That's the example we have with Srila Prabhupada. And we should, as best we can, follow that example, emulate that example, because that is the example of a perfect disciple.